It is my goal to do a solo challenge every single week using all 151 Pokédex entries within the game of Pokemon Yellow. And this week we are taking a look at what I would almost argue is the alternate mascot of Pokemon. It's not necessarily given this as an official title, but it is very clearly, if you have a coin in which the Pokemon mascot is of Pikachu, the tails side of that would in fact be Eevee. Now, Eevee is such a special Pokemon. Eevee is a highly loved and adored Pokemon. And who's to blame them, right? Look at that little face. It's just so cute. But also, when you think about it, there's just something that's so special about this Pokemon, which is that it spawned, almost literally, an entirely new phenomenon within Pokemon, even in Generation 1, and it is something that has stuck with the franchise ever since. Now, first and foremost, what do I mean by that? Well, in Generation 1, every Pokemon, if it can evolve, only evolves in one singular line. However, with Eevee, Eevee is the very first Pokemon that got a split branch evolution. And so therefore, you had this really cool concept of evolution and what Pokemon could do. And that is something that then got expanded within Generation 2. 2 new Eeveelutions, as we call them, because again, of course, how could you not give this particular case a unique title for the kind of gimmick, if you will? But then you also had other Pokemon that kind of got that same treatment, right? Poliwhirl eventually got its own split evolution, Poliwrath or Politoed, and the list goes on and on and on. This is something that happens also frequently in new generations. Sometimes a generational line suddenly gets a new additional evolution further down the line, and maybe it's technically regional, but also maybe it's not. It's a very interesting thing to think about as well, but that's not what we're going for here today. We have not had a new Eeveelution in a very long time, and with Generation 10 coming up very soon, who knows, maybe we'll see a new one. I would love to have your personal takes on what you think will happen with the Eevee line and what we could potentially get, if ever. Obviously, there's only a few types left that we haven't seen get an Eeveelution, but maybe we'll get another one or two. And if so, what do you hope we will see? As for this Pokemon, however, today, we are going to be seeing something that I think is pretty special. I'm going to put that in quotes, not necessarily in a good way either. If you take a look at the move pool on the right-hand side of the screen, you will notice a pretty glaring problem. And that is the exact types of moves that Eevee can learn. Now you see, across the board for normal type Pokemon in really any generation, but even in Generation 1, type coverage is pretty crucial. You see a lot of interesting things like a Machoke that can learn Fire Blast for some reason, right? Or when you look at another Pokemon that is of the normal type, specifically a Pokemon like, let's say, Rattata. Rattata being this just a little guy, just kind of like Eevee is, but it can use Thunderbolt, it can use Blizzard, it can use Water Gun, right? Like, it can learn so many different things that gives it coverage across the board and can make it viable against really anything, considering it's not super effective against anything at all, but it can resist everything else, except for fighting types. But in Generation 1, that's also not that big of a problem. But when you look at Eevee, you will notice that outside of 3 moves, every single move here is a normal type move. And the reason for that is that things like Reflect, Rest, and Toxic are typically available for almost every single Pokemon within this game, as is basically Body Slam and some other stuff. But really, when you look at some of this stuff, it really comes down to the fact that he only has normal type moves because of the split evolution. That is a crucial part of the problem that Eevee faces within Generation 1. Because it has the ability to split and go in different directions, it can't really have type coverage because the type coverage would come from those evolutions and the moves that they can learn that can then also go towards, being usable in any kind of situation, or at least some situations. But in Generation 1, Eevee is going to face a pretty large problem with this move pool. But we will get to that a little bit later within this gameplay and a little bit later within this video. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at the very first gym, We've faced the same problem with so many different Pokemon, whether they are a normal type Pokemon or not. So many Pokemon get to this stage within the game and don't have a move that is very good for Brock. So Eevee has had to do quite a bit of training here, although it isn't quite as high of a level as some of the other Pokemon that have kind of required major levels up just to get to this sort of point. But here at level 12, basically almost 13 by the time we're leaving Viridian Forest, we're actually making pretty good time with this Pokemon, leveling up pretty quickly as we go, and we're going to be set up in a fairly decent amount by the time we get to the gym here, and I think it's going to make a big difference for Eevee. Up first is, of course, the junior trainer. We don't have anything that's great for it, and I'm typically someone who doesn't do a lot of sand attack. Sand attack is not against my personal rule set here within the game. I try to avoid double team. I feel like double team feels a little bit more cheap than sand attack, but sand attack doesn't feel bad necessarily, at least not for the first gym, maybe the first two, for a Pokemon that maybe perhaps struggles with having really any kind of moves to use. But Sand Attack is actually doing quite well for Eevee here. It's a good strategy. It just means that we can take our time with whittling them down when they are missing us more often than not. Immediately after that, I am going to make sure to take a brief moment to go heal up, because we need all of the PP that we can get for this next fight so that I can use Sand Attack on both of Brock's team members. And also I'm going to obviously need to spam some Tail Whip as well. Even though I have a same type attack bonus for Tackle, they do resist it, so it's not going to be very good. As you can see, it just dropped down from 52 to 26. So we're going to need every little trick in the toolbox here that we have available to us. So using Sand Attack a number of times here, 5 times to be specific, then we can drop his defense down a little bit, because luckily, since it's in yellow, he does not have Defense Curl, so that means he can't get that back. And so then a few tackles in, and he is down, and we are now up one more level, which will also help us out. So now we're going to go do the exact same thing for Onyx. And this is a pretty good benefit, because also when he tries to use Bide, there's not going to be any energy collecting there because I'm not attacking into it. Then again, he's going to try and go for Bide again, and then I will use Tail Whip and everything like that. He's definitely also going for Bide because Bide can't miss. It kind of surpasses the accuracy check. So I'm definitely trying to not feed into it whenever I can. Now, whenever he goes for Tackle or anything like that, he is missing. And after a few hits there, Eevee at level 14, probably one of the fastest normal type Pokemon to beat Brock. So this does feel pretty good. Okay, now follow me on this next little bit, okay? We're going to sort of skip over a couple of regular details, and we're going to showcase a couple of specific moments here. So first and foremost, we're just going to immediately skip all of the rest of the Cerulean conversation and just go immediately to Misty, who you can actually kind of just steamroll in this scenario. The attack power isn't necessarily all that high, but it is enough that with the same type attack bonus to our normal type attack moves, which it does not resist, we can actually make our way through that fight pretty easily. And then we, of course, can make our way to the SS Anne, where we're going to pick up our most powerful move that we will have on this run. We've seen it time and time again, and that is Body Slam. I'm going to teach it in just a moment. I don't need it for Rival 3, so I don't really bother. We are going to need it for Lieutenant Surge. In the meantime, though, I am powerful enough that I can 2-hit everything with the exception of the Rattata, which just needs 1 hit. But everything else on the Rivals team is a 2-hit, and it is not difficult at all. And in fact, we get through with basically our entire health bar. So then I will go pick up the move of Cut, and then I will make my way off of the SS Anne and use this new move to get into Lieutenant Surge's place. I double checked to make sure that I did heal up. I did. We're good. We can now save in front of Surge. Doubt we're going to need to, though. Half the time, I don't even save here. I'll be fully honest with you. And I don't think I needed to today either, because we survived the first Thunderbolt with more than half health. 2 Body Slams gets us through, and we get to move on. Now, normally we go to Celadon after we get through the rock tunnel, but today we're going to take that moment here in Lavender Town, which we have to pass through anyway. We're actually going to go up against Rival 4 here. We don't need to do a lot of leveling up before that fight because either way, whether we do it now or after the gym, we're going to be considerably over his levels anyway. So let's just go ahead and get this done because there is a very specific thing that we need to focus on for this run. I told you that at the very beginning, and now we're finally at that moment. You see, in Generation 1, there is a small problem with a Pokemon that can only learn normal type moves. And that is that we get to a part of the game where we have to fight mandatory fighters, or trainers rather, with ghost type Pokemon. The problem is, without a move that is outside of the normal typing, we cannot hit their Pokemon. And even if I were to use up all of my PP and then use Struggle, in Generation 1, Struggle is a normal type move. It eventually becomes a typeless move to avoid this sort of problem, but for right now, that's it. That's our blackout. No resets, one blackout, but it doesn't matter how many times I try and go at that, Eevee cannot complete this game. However, there is another game that is going to be very helpful in us determining Eevee and its usage within Pokemon Yellow. You see, it is impossible for it to beat the game regularly, but earlier when we did a look at Pikachu and what Pikachu can handle within Pokemon Yellow, we also talked about the different iterations that we have seen of Pikachu across the board, and that included Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. So of course that should mean that his counterpart, I guess, the alternate mascot for Pokemon, Eevee, should also get the same benefit. Now, in other formats of media, and of course also special event Pokemon, we have seen Pikachu have the ability to surf, to fly, and of course then also within Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, he can use all of the HMs. Well, in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, this Eevee, your partner Eevee, the one that we will be using today, can also use all of the HMs. So therefore, we are going to take a look at that Pokemon today, backported into Pokemon Yellow. Thanks again to Scott's Thoughts for doing this. He's also the guy that, develops all this software that I use here on this channel, and he makes those resources readily available to creators, and I just really appreciate that so much. But this is an Eevee that has a very different learn set. And by very different, it's not like it's, filling out the entire board there, but it just takes a couple of moves to drastically change a Pokemon's trajectory. And if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that that move pool is very different now. Of course, we get access to all of the HMs, so not just Flash, not just Strength, not just Cut, the normal type ones, but we also get access to Surf and Fly. We're also going to get access early on to a move at level 10 that is Double Kick. Starting with Pokemon Yellow, you got access to the Nidorans that also had this move so that you could get past Brock much quicker because, of course, Pikachu himself would not be able to get past this Pokemon, and so they gave the same sort of benefit to Eevee within Let's Go Eevee. Therefore, at not even 8 minutes and a half, we have defeated Brock with a normal type Pokemon, and that is fairly unheard of. They usually struggle a lot more. You have to grind a lot more against him in the early game. But luckily, with this new benefit and this special partner Pokemon, we are getting through this a little bit quicker. Up next is Rival 2 within Cerulean City. He's kind of a pushover here, although most of the stuff here is going to be a 2-hit, not including the way that Double Kick works, which is just the same attack twice within one move. He goes down, and we are now moving on to Nugget Bridge, getting the ticket for the SS and from Bill, and then making our way into the gym here in Cerulean City at 20 minutes. Now, I probably could avoid the first trainer. I probably don't need it, but you never know. Since we're not doing as much grinding in the early game, we might need a little bit of grinding in the mid to late early game / early mid game. Ooh, that's a hard way of quantifying how I'm breaking down this game, but I hope you get where I'm going with this. Now, up next for Misty, we can actually get Staryu down before she can even do any kind of X-Defend, and even with an X-Defend, we can defeat Starmie pretty quickly. That is looking pretty good. The attack power on this Pokemon is a little bit stronger. It's a little bit higher. We're looking a little better. And now we're going to pick up one of the best moves in the game still, which is Body Slam. It's just a little bit stronger than Bite, which is a normal type move within this generation. It's going to give us that same type attack bonus, and also, of course, it's going to give us the option to potentially paralyze a Pokemon, so that move will remain. We also have access, finally, to the last move that I was going to mention, which is something that we pick up from the Thief at the back of Cerulean on your way down to Vermilion City, and that is the move Dig. And honestly, Dig goes so hard in Generation 1. It is such a great move. It's one of my favorites to use if I have access to it, because you can also immediately use it in the next city after you get it at Lieutenant Surge's gym, where he has only one Pokemon to match the anime, but one Dig is enough to take out his Raichu. He is just certifiably not good in this particular game. He's better in Red and Blue when he's got more Pokemon, but once they kind of really nerf him and only give him Raichu, that's it. Then in Erica's gym, we can make quick work of all of the trainers here because we can now move on from where we left off in the first run, where we did not have the better move pool. So we are going to skip Lavender Town for now, and we're going to be here in Celadon at this gym. 2 hits of Body Slam takes out the mono-type grass Pokemon Tangela, and then the other 2 Pokemon that she has, their secondary typing is Poison, which, guess what, is super weak to Dig. So therefore, Dig takes out the rest of her team. Quick and easy. Eevee is moving right along. I am going to drop by the Mart, which is going to take us a couple of minutes there. That's why it takes us about 5 minutes. I pick up a Pokédoll, which we're going to need in a moment. And then I also pick up a couple of items just to boost a couple of my stats while I'm there. And then we pick up also a Lemonade to cross through Saffron so that we can go back there later. That'll be for the future. And just like the first run, we have taken out the rival here. He is quite simple. And at basically the same amount of time, but this time with an extra badge, we are now here in the tower. And now, guess what? Look at that secondary typing. It's Poison, so bada bing, bada boom. That is Lavender Town down. I'm not going to show the rest of all the ghost fights. I think the point is that you get that now we can fight them and we can move on. Up next is the gym for Koga, and here in Fuchsia City there is one small problem, and that is that because I've been kind of going faster and I haven't had to grind as much, I am at a lower level. So going into this gym, I am only at level 44. His strongest Pokemon is at level 50. They put me to sleep and it is just whittling me down. There is unfortunately no way for me to get out of that. So I thought about it for a moment and I said, okay, maybe if I don't get put to sleep. The problem is I could not remember if I saved in front of him. I did, but I could not remember. So I took the blackout. It helps me get 1 extra level. That's not really going to make or break this scenario for sure. So I come back with that blackout. I come back at 1 level higher. I think maybe I'll be better. And I did get poisoned, so maybe that'll go okay for me. But it is also toxic, which means that it's doing more and more damage each time. Maybe if I just gone for Body Slam against the Venomoth twice, I don't know. The problem is I'm trying to avoid some of the stronger attacks with their special. It's not looking good, so I leave and I choose to go to Silph Co first. This is a move that we've done many times before. I think we've all seen this a few iterations, I guess. And so we are going to go through there. We're going to fight a bunch of people there, get a couple levels, and then we're going to go up against Rival 5. Here, Sandslash, we don't really have an answer for, but he doesn't have a great move pool, so we're going to be fine with that. Ninetales, obviously, we have an answer for. We do have an answer for Cloyster, but the thing is that his defense is pretty high. So even with a boosted attack of Double Kick, you can see that he's probably the most dangerous Pokemon on this team for me, at least currently. So that's something to keep an eye on. That being said, though, Kadabra and Jolteon are very easy. Kadabra is a glass cannon. Jolteon, as long as I can avoid any kind of big attack, I can get Dig off, and that will take care of that. Up next is the Rocket Trio. We see them 3 times within the game. Since I did not do the hidden base, this is actually only the 2nd time that I will see them, but it will be the 2nd and last time, and I will have them blasting off again. Then it's time for Giovanni. We did skip the secret base, so again, this is going to be our first time seeing Giovanni. He has 3 Pokemon that are weak to Dig, And then Persian, we can honestly still do the same thing, although Body Slam also would have been fine. Dig will one-shot Nidorino and Rhyhorn. However, with Nidoqueen, it will leave her with 1 health. Oh my gosh. She's won, and she's down. As if I'm playing Fortnite or something. I don't know, man. And then, now that he is done, we are going to go back to Koga. Because, that's a force of habit. I went to Charmander to use Dig. Forgot that I have it on Eevee. Which is crazy, because that's the move that I need to use here. Double check to make sure that I did in fact heal after Saffron. Then I made sure to save in front of Koga. I'm remembering this now. And then it's time to take this team on again. I do have something that's super effective against them, but of course there's no real major boost here. It should do more really, but it's not really showing as that. Then Dig gets the first 2 out in 1 hit. The second Venonat does live, but it doesn't do any damage to me. So we're going into Venomoth with perfect health. And even though I get poisoned, it does not matter. His Pokemon falls to Dig, and we get to move on with a 5th badge. Then, after that, it will be Sabrina, and it's a lot like Rival 5. 2 of her 3 Pokemon are glass cannons, and Abra is just glass. All it has is Flash, and as long as I can take it out in 1 hit, I don't have to have any kind of debuffs to my accuracy. Then, for Kadabra, it is a 2-hit. Alakazam could be a little bit more hard with Reflect and boosting its defense and everything like that, and especially with the Recover, but a critical hit does matter, and it takes it out. It'll skip over all of that, and she is down for the count. We are 1 hour and 2 minutes in. This is actually looking to be a pretty good time for a normal type Pokemon here. And now we are going up against Blaine. With Blaine, we have Surf and Dig to kind of use at our disposal. A lot of it is really looking at what's going to be better, their special or their defense, though also a little bit of that is also just, I like Surf. It's hard to not click it sometimes. But Dig is really the correct answer, really, for all 3 of them. I just like the fact that I have that move and that I can teach it to an Eevee of all Pokemon. Then we are going to dig our way out of here. I've said that move so many times now, and I'm sorry, you're going to hear it a bunch more. Then after doing a couple of the optional trainers in here, I am going to go up against Giovanni for the 2nd and last time, this time for the honor of having a badge. Luckily, we outspeed the Dugtrio, so that's pretty good. Then a double kick takes out Persian. Then for the last 3 Pokemon, really it should be Dig for Nidoqueen and Nidoking, although it is going to be a 2-hit for both of them. Their defenses are decent enough that they're going to live those. And then for Rhydon, I actually think the correct answer here is Surf. I just sort of, by kind of continuing to click the same button, managed to hit Dig 1 time. I think Surf 1-shots, but either way, the 2-hit is still fine. We live with a majority of our health, so we are looking good. Then I save there just in case. I have been known to sometimes not save, go up against the rival, hit reset, and then have to redo the 8th badge, so I've been doing a lot better about remembering that these days. We don't want to see this Eevee kind of fall backwards because of my big mistakes. We want to see this one do well. Well, we want to see all of them do well, but especially one that's doing much better than its earlier counterpart. Up first, we now have an answer to Sand Slash. Surf is the way. Body Slam mostly gets Execute. Execute is now the Pokemon that we have to be the most concerned about, I think. Outside of maybe Cloyster. Cloyster just has such a huge defense, and I don't really have any other moves to use against it. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could use Body Slam, but that's also going to be the same problem. It's going to be a defense-based thing. So really, it just comes down to, can I get through this thing before it can whittle me down? And then finally, the last 2 Pokemon are the exact same as prior discussions. Kadabra, Glass Cannon, and then Jolteon goes down. Okay, nice, good. It's looking good. That's the last time that we're going to see the rival until he becomes the champion. So the question is after a couple extra levels within Victory Road, we are ready to take on the Elite Four. First things first, I'm going to heal. Then I'm going to drop off all of my HM Mon. We don't need them anymore. I'm going to pick up a couple of items. In my head, I go, I feel like I definitely healed first, but just in case. And now, because I don't have any moves that boost any of my stats, we are just going to go ahead and use every single one of the 11 rare candies that I have picked up. There is a 12th one within the power plant, but since I don't think I really need it, I don't take the time to go pick that up. Plus, I think it's going to, hurt my time. And while I'm not doing an official speed run, it does feel good to be here in under an hour and a half. Can we beat the game in that amount of time? Well, let's find out. First up is Lorelei. Double kick is going to be the move. I thought about how I could probably get rid of that move eventually, but it still feels right. It still feels good, still feels fine. Double kick will take out pretty much everything with the exception of Slowbro. Slowbro is a water psychic type. It's the only one that does not have an ice typing. So I can body slam that one away. And then double kick will take on the rest of these members here for her. Jinx, it's super effective. She does live it once Ice Punch lands. We're at about half health-ish, somewhere around there. And double kick takes out Lapras in one shot. Well, 2 kicks, but 1 move, right? Then we're going to heal up. Here against Bruno, Bruno is kind of like Surge 2.0. He is just not good. He's an overglorified hiker. And at the end of the day, Surf is going to be the answer across the board. The reason for that is that 2 of the Pokemon, they are super weak, or rather, Surf is super effective against them. And then for the other 3 Pokemon, the fighting types that he has, their special is really, really low. So our special is at 203, so that means that Surf is going to be hitting for quite a bit of damage. And even though Machamp lives the first hit, he wastes a move on X-Defend. He could have used something like Submission, potentially done either all of my HP or at least a good amount, but Eevee gets through unscathed. Up next is Agatha. Agatha can be a bit of a wall, but it's basically the same thing as we discussed for the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town. At this point, we have Dig, and that's all that you need against 3 of her Pokemon. Then Body Slam will take out the Golbat, Dig will take out Arbok as well, so we are sitting pretty. And even though we've been poisoned, we should be able to get through this without taking all of our health down. It could potentially hit us with something like a Psychic, but we are outspeeding, so we are set. That is nice to see. The other thing to consider too is that unless they use their moves like Mega Drain or Psychic, they weren't going to be able to hit me anyway because Ghost type moves cannot hit normal types. So nice little extra trick up our sleeve there. Basically the opposite problem of what we had earlier is what her problem was. Then for Lance, Body Slam is really just kind of cruising right through. Surf will take out Aerodactyl because of the rock typing. And then I meant to do Body Slam against Dragonite. I just was clicking a little bit too fast. I do get the Paralyze off. It goes for an attack and it only drops me to about half health. And then Lance goes down. So far, the Elite Four is actually quite simple for the partner Eevee. That's looking good. That means that baby, just like the remake game of Let's Go Eevee, it almost feels like they're holding my hand here a little bit. It's a little too simple. Now, for the champion, Surf, of course, takes out Sandslash, Alakazam, Glass Cannon, boom, done. Now, Exeggutor could be a problem, but guess what? Critical hit takes it out in 1 hit. Then the other problem child, Cloyster, okay. So double kick does not do half. It does close to, but then a critical hit, yes! Okay, so it isn't going to be a 3 hit, it's going to be a 2 hit. Dig, of course, takes that one out. And finally, even with a quick attack, Dig takes out Jolteon. And at just barely over an hour 20, at 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 9 seconds, partner Eevee, but still Eevee, makes it through Generation 1. So, yes, again, just to reiterate, the Prime Generation 1 Eevee cannot make it. It does not qualify. But the partner Eevee can, and I hope that you enjoyed the backport Pokemon. I think it's just a fun little addition and helps make this video a little less boring, a little less, hey, it's 5 minutes long and that's it. At the beginning of the video, I said it's my current goal to beat all of Pokemon Yellow using all 151 Pokedex entries for the game, but it's also my goal to hit 500 subscribers. So if you've made it this far and you have not already done so, and by subscribing, and you enjoy the content, I would love if you would consider hitting that button. Every little interaction that you do for smaller content creators like myself, like subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting especially, really helps us all out a lot. And I thank you so much for watching and participating in any capacity. That's going to do it for this week, though. Be kind to yourself, be excellent to one another, and I will see you next week for another solo challenge in Pokemon Yellow.